Hi, second graders. Today we're going to be reading the poem The Rear Wiper by Alan Katz from the book Oops. Today, I want you to think about what poetry is. I want you to look at your partner and I want you to try to discuss what you think poetry is. Now, this is a time when the students are going to interact with their partner or the person beside them, and they're going to talk about their definition of poetry or just what they really know about poetry. I would have them then, after they have about 2 or 3 minutes to discuss, I would have them then come back to a class discussion, and I would have some of their ideas to call out and to see what they think about poetry. This is what we're going to be doing with our poem today. I want everyone to grab their pencil and grab their copy of the poem, and I want you to look at it. I don't want you to read it yet. I want you to look through the poem and find any words that you might not know or you might not recognize. And when you find one of those words, I just want you to put a box around it with your pencil. I'm going to demonstrate for you. Wiper. I don't know what that word means, so I'm going to box it. Freaky. I'm not sure what they mean, so I'm going to box that word too. This is a time where you're going to just give them enough time to look through the poem, find any words that they may not be familiar with, and just have them time to get familiar with the poem without actually reading it. Okay, did everyone find the words that they might be unfamiliar with? Good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our highlighter and we're going to actually read the poem. We're going to whisper read to ourselves so that we don't bother any of our neighbors, and we're going to read it. And when we read it and we get to a boxed word, if we now understand it because we read part of the poem, we're going to highlight it. But if we get to a word that's still boxed and we don't know what it means, we're just going to keep it boxed and not highlight it. I'm going to demonstrate for you. I don't mean to be upset. I don't mean to be hyper. But Dad told me he had to get himself a new rear wiper. Wiper. I still don't really know what that means, so I'm just going to keep it boxed and I'm not going to highlight it. Rear wipers are for tots, I said. He let the comment pass. I'll pick one up, he said instead, the next time I get gas. But wait, the tale goes on from there. But what he said next was freaky. Perhaps I ought to buy a pair to keep them from getting streaky. Oh, freaky, I know what they mean now, so I'm going to highlight it. Here, I highlighted it. So now that you understand this, I want you to go through your poem, and I want you to do exactly like I did. Read your poem, and if you understand the word that's boxed now, then you can highlight it. But if you don't, just keep it boxed, and we'll talk about it at the end of the class. Now I would give the students time to read the poem, give them enough time for them to actually understand and read through the poem and get familiar with the words and highlight the words that they need to highlight and keep boxed the words that they still don't understand. I would then have the class come to the carpet and have a class discussion on what words they do not understand that are still boxed and not highlighted. We will have the class decide what words they are, and then they would talk about what words they are, and I would call on students to maybe give them their definitions of the words that were boxed. And once the students have the understanding with the words within the poem, then we would read the poem together as a class. We would choral read so that all the students are engaged in the poem and they understand the poem. So we would read the poem as a whole with all the words that they understand.